I know, as a queer person, as an LGBTQ person, that sometimes when you go into more cis heteronormative spaces, the kind of language, the kind of insults that are normalized are very dehumanizing, and um, especially like if you're in the closet or even if you're not. Well, my name is Charlotte Landry. I have been a scout for the last 5 years for the QMJHL. I've been working with hockeyprospect.com for most of it. Um, yeah, and I just kind of sometime last year is when I started figuring myself out and coming out as being transgender, and um, it was kind of a really interesting journey navigating that in this space.
Hmm.
I was not sure exactly how I would be received by the hockey community in general, just because it's not something that's really talked about very often.
Oh yeah.
Uh, so yeah, but I suppose it went better for me than I thought it would, which I'm, you know, obviously very, very happy about. You know, it was something I kind of thought I had to do because while I was transitioning in my private life, I considered maybe hiding it for a while, but
Hmm.
it's very difficult to kind of present as something you're not in public. So
Completely.
yeah, yeah, uh,
Well, honestly, I think being an out trans person in society is courageous. Doing it in hockey is incredibly brave, and congratulations for recognizing who you are, accepting yourself, and having the courage to live as yourself. I think that is so incredible.
well, thank you. Yeah, it was again. It was scary because it feels. I mean, I'm sure you have some experience with, every person you come out with to. It kind of feels like you're rolling a dice, whether or not you hope that it goes well,
Hmm.
but there's always that chance that it doesn't. And at least to my face, people have been, fairly accepting. And I kind of I knew that I kind of had a position and a platform that I felt like I needed to do this because one of the advantages of working with a smaller kind of community like QMJHL. I'm watching kids who are 15, 14, 13, like from Nova Scotia or New Brunswick. Like
Hmm.
it's more difficult to get information on that than it is like NHL prospects. You can
Of
look
course.
everywhere. So um when it came to that, people started to I was one of the people uh you know people started to rely on for information. I felt like I had built up a certain level of respect, and I kind of wanted to leverage that to say, hey, um, this is me. I'm a trans woman. And if you respect my work, if you respect me before, I want you to internalize that you have respect for a trans person, and that, my life and my work has value and there are more like me. Um, so yeah, I thought it was kind of, for me personally, it was important to put that out there and um, make this less scary for others in the future. Um,
You're humanizing um, an identity that isn't, common in the hockey space, and you're going to change lives and save lives, and that's powerful. You, I have so much respect for you. That's incredibly brave. How did you get into hockey?
Well, I mean, I was into it from a young age from my father. He used to take me to rinks all the time. I'm a 1987 born for Cole Harbor, so I played with Crosby in his Timbit year, believe
Oh,
it or
fun.
not. Yeah, I found that picture the other day. But I mean, I've always been into hockey, and um, it gives me, recently, about 2016, my and not to get too deep into it, but my father kind of started developing dementia, and it's progressively gotten a little worse. So for me, hockey also has that connection of, you know, the nostalgic. Everything reminds me of him when he used to take me to the rinks as
Yeah.
a kid. Just the sounds of the skates on the ice, the smells, just everything is just nostalgic. And um, but yeah, it's everything. I love. There's that. You know, I consider myself more of a hockey nerd at this point than a fan.
Hmm.
It's I still have teams I root for, but it's hard. It's hard to dislike teams and dislike players. It's like, oh, okay, I've been watching this kid play since he was 13 years old, right? Like, how do I
Yeah.
hate him? So, you kind of, obviously, I want my local teams or my, the Canadians to win or whatever. But it's like, okay, like I have this level of respect and this happiness to see guys who I've been watching for a long time develop and succeed. So,
I love that. And, as an ex-player, I kind of feel the same way, right? Like I don't really care who wins. I've played against or with so many players in the league that you're just like, whatever.
yeah,
And
exactly.
and it's more fun to troll fan bases when you don't have an allegiance to one club. So I love that aspect.
Yeah, I don't get like super emotional anymore, and I find there's still the fans that get really emotional
Um,
over everything, and I'm just like, okay, you need to chill. It's just a game. I get it, but
yeah, they're my favorite because you push their buttons. It's so fun. So you kind of explained this, but maybe reiterate or add anything you want to add. But what do you love about hockey?
well, again, it started with the nostalgia, but I
Yes.
mean, for me, it is my favorite sport. It was by default for a long time, but I find it's there's always something happening on the ice. Unlike you know say football or
Hmm.
baseball, there's a lot of dead space. And while I can appreciate it, it's not as fast and fluid as hockey. And I just love being in the rink. I love having, hot August day, escape to a frigid
Yeah.
rink somewhere for training camp or something and just
Sunday
watch.
afternoon, sit there and watch some.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot better than, roasting in your car or whatever. So it got me, it was one of the things, especially before, because I'm a lot more outgoing now that I'm confident in myself and my appearance and
Mhm.
my presentation. But before, I've always had that underlying like, okay, like I don't like who I am or how I look, so it was very hard to get me out of the house. But hockey was one of the few things that would do that for me. So, but obviously that love continues, even though I'm a little more, a little more outgoing now than I used to be.
I really love that. I think that's very sweet. And I'm happy that hockey did that for you, you know?
Yeah, 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 I kind of. It was also one of the few places where I felt comfortable in crowds, which was weird because I was never like a concert person or like a
Right.
person to go to parties, but for whatever reason, the hockey never bothered me, in terms of like sold out buildings or whatever. I was always perfectly fine with that.
I love that. How could hockey be better for you?
um, well, uh, it, it's it is a bit of the scouting world around here, and I'm going to extrapolate that to the larger scouting world that I've seen or experienced, is just it is a bit of a boys club.
Hmm.
Not not only as a trans person, but as a woman, it is a little um, it's still a little weird, and it's still very difficult to feel like I fit in or belong. And I think that we really need to um, push kind of not only queer involvement but female involvement in the sport, and that is becoming better recently, but it's definitely still not there. It's still it's still kind of a lonely experience being a woman in hockey, especially especially following men's leagues and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, for me, again, most everybody I've come up to has been super great. Some people have been kind of enthusiastic about it and very encouraging, and that's really nice. It was really nice to experience and have people show genuine interest in me and what I'm going through. So I haven't really experienced much in kind of that. I haven't really experienced much negative in that kind of scenario. But yeah, it definitely does feel like I'm on an island sometimes, just in terms of being a woman scout at the rink.
Completely. And that's got to be difficult. And and to take it a step further, we need people, like we need more diversity in terms of race, in terms of gender, in terms of sexuality, in terms of gender identity, all of it. Like we need more diversity in the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Fortunately, I guess fortunately in a way, I'm not in that, like, I don't have to deal with that locker room culture much, but I know, as a queer person, as an LGBTQ person, that sometimes when you go into more cis heteronormative spaces, the kind of language, the kind of insults that are normalized are very dehumanizing, and um, especially like if you're in the closet or even if you're not, it's just like yeah, hearing the word, hearing homophobic slurs or whatever
Hmm.
just thrown around, it doesn't feel nice. And it's like, okay, like you can find you can find better language to use that doesn't attack people who are just trying to live their lives, right? So
And that's kind of, yeah, because that was my lived experience, right? That I had to deal with that. And now even when I go to schools or sports teams, one of the things I say is, you have a phone, you know how to Google words, find another word for I'm disappointed, that instead of that's gay. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
if you're in a school, do you take like languages? Like, do you learn language? Like, find other words, expand your vocabulary.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you're using gay as a substitute for, something that is negative, then the implication is obvious, which is, um, it's. I find it very bizarre that we're still dealing with this in 2021, but here we are.
I mean, we're dealing with it on a number of fronts, and it has to evolve. And that was part of the reason for this, is to show visibility of uh, the community within the sport. So hopefully, those who see it who are not a part of the community can go, "Oh wow, there's this many people," and this is tip of the iceberg stuff. So it's like, okay, there's a lot of people here, and we have to shift.
Yeah.
um, you know what gives you, or what keeps you in hockey?
Um. Again, it's kind of it's kind of the love of the game. But I mean, there's part of it that it's something that I recognize that um I don't know if I want to say I'm well, I'll say it, like I'm good at what I do, at least to a certain degree. And
No, own that. Say it. Say it. I want you to shout that.
but yeah, so I mean, there's that. There's the validation that comes with that. Just there's a certain feeling that comes with people, seeking me out and my work, and um, you know, being relied on. It gives me a certain sense of, self worth and value. That fortunately I'm able to get a lot of other places in my life now, but it doesn't mean that it's any less meaningful. I feel like I'm doing something productive, and obviously, like I said, just love the rink. I love I love the sounds and everything. Um, it's a place I can kind of go to, really disconnect from everything else that's going on in the world. Any personal problems or relationship problems are all, they're all kind of pushed out of my head when it comes to, the rink, and that's what I can focus on. And so yeah, that's like my big. That's why I'll continue to do it and continue to go.
I think that's incredible. It was funny growing up. I always felt like being on the ice was the only place where my mind wasn't, so kind of to the same way, right? Your mind's not thinking. I didn't have to think about my sexuality at that point. I didn't have to think about anything. I just played the game.
Yeah, yeah, and it's getting to the point with me like I said, my I only started coming out a year ago. I realized my transition has been a little atypical. Because of the support I got, I kind of pushed forward a lot faster than some other people I've known.
Mhm.
My name is legally changed. I present like this. This is just how I go out. So, and I'm getting to the point now where this is all very normal to me. I don't think about it. I there's that first 6 months to a year or so where, being visibly trans is something that's on your mind constantly.
Yeah.
Because where I have a feminine name, I have to, and I dress like this. It's just like, okay, am I passing, or like, do people get it? Are people going to use my correct pronouns? Yeah, and fortunately for me, I've kind of moved past the stage where I am worried about that all the time. I'm just kind of comfortable in my own existence. Yesterday, I went out to the grocery store. I was wearing jeans and a hockey jersey. I mean, granted, they're girl jeans and a women's cut hockey jersey, but I wasn't presenting super feminine, no makeup or anything, and I still got called by my correct pronouns. So
That's awesome.
it's a confidence booster to know that people see me and they can, um, I don't know, they might still be able to clock me. I don't know, but like it's still, um,
But you have passing privilege of, and that's got to feel validating.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
What gives you hope for queer people in the LGBTQ plus community within the sport?
um, well, I want to say that my personal experience, and I know that I am in a very, being on the East Coast, I feel like I'm probably in a better position than a lot of people across Canada and globally. But
Mhm.
just my experience coming out makes me hopeful that this is becoming more normal and people are becoming more accepting. I think um, some people even seemed excited at the prospect of having a trans person in their social circle, like as so it just that gives me a lot of hope. And as I said, like the reception I got from the hockey community, um, it was really great. It gave me the confidence to really push forward and say, okay, like I know this is right for me. I know who I am, and I feel like the majority of people are going to accept me, or at least at least not push back or anything. So
Mhm.
yeah, and I owe kind of the hockey community. a lot of that because I mean, obviously, the first places I came out were very explicitly queer friendly
Yes.
spaces, and you come out there and it's like, oh my god, congratulations, everybody's so happy for you, but it's like, okay, what's this like when I come out to like more normie crowd,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word. So that was terrifying.
Of course. Yeah.
I made a big post about it, and I immediately regretted it and had a bunch of anxiety, but I didn't. I ended up not regretting it. I ended up, getting a lot of supportive messages and a lot of people wishing me well, and I guess news spreads too because I'm at the rink seeing people I used to, I knew, and I'm just like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm Charlotte now, and they're like, yeah, I know, and I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know where you heard that from, but cool, I guess. That's always a bit of a weird thing. It's like, oh dear, people are talking about me.
I think that that comes from being in, uh, like you said, the East Coast might be a safe space, but it's not Toronto where, there's 5 million people in one little
Mm.
area. So I think news travels fast.
Yeah, yeah, and uh, as I kind of mentioned or like alluded to earlier, like our community is a lot smaller. Like our
Hmm.
province has a million people in it. Not everybody's in the hockey. Like I know every scout who's from here to New Brunswick, and a lot of the ones who come down from Quebec for the tournaments. Like I
Hmm.
if I don't know their names, I know their faces. I know who they are. Like it's a smaller, tighter knit community, which is both a blessing, but it was also kind of scary because it's like, okay, well, if this doesn't go well, there's not really much place for me to slip into a crowd and hide. Yeah, word travels fast, and luckily, I got the yeah, I've gotten a lot of love and a lot of acceptance where I'm at. So
Well, I have to tell you, your story and so many of the stories that people have shared gives me hope because, being authentically yourself in these spaces is so courageous and inspiring and leads to change. You're changing the world there. You're changing the hockey world there, which ultimately influences mainstream society there. We know the impact in Canada of hockey, and you being there and being yourself is shifting the culture. So Charlotte, thank you so much. I am so grateful for you. I think that's incredible.
well, thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed the chat, and I look forward to seeing um, other people's stories as well.
I will for sure, and I hope to see way more people like you sharing their stories. So thank you.